wabarakatuh. A wonderful to all of you. Welcome to our Institution of Global Professional Free International webinar. Once again, thank you again all for joining with us in this marvelous session, and I hope you stay with us till the program end. And time to time, you like our Facebook page and subscribe our YouTube channel. Dear participants, today our webinar name is TPACK Framework for Teachers Self-efficacy. Today we have the speaker from Philippines. Today our speaker's name is Cipriano Quiros Mendoza Jr. He is a faculty of field study and Bachelor of Elementary Education Program Coordinator at University of Eastern Pangasinan from Philippines. Let's see, welcome our speaker to the screen. Hello, sir. Good
Hello.
afternoon.
Hello, sir. Good afternoon. Am I audible, sir?
Yes, sir, you're audible and your voice is clear.
All right. Thank you so much, sir. So, good afternoon,
Oh,
everyone, especially to our participants who are joining us this afternoon. So, I am Mr. Cipriano Q. Mendoza Jr., a faculty, field study, and Bachelor of Elementary Education Program Coordinator at University of Eastern Pangasinan here in the Philippines. So, you can call me Mr. Sip or Sir Sip. And today, I will be discussing a significant topic on TPACK framework for teachers' self-efficacy. So before we begin, allow me to introduce first the objectives of today's session. Number one, disseminate the research output of the speaker on teacher education instructors' self-efficacy in the utilization of TPACK framework in online education, input to training and development program. Second one, demonstrate an in-depth understanding about the utilization of TPACK framework for teachers' self-efficacy. And then after knowing the concepts of TPACK framework for teachers' self-efficacy, perhaps you will be able to utilize them or use them as your guide in delivering competencies and instructions, teaching pedagogy, and integrating technology to create an efficient learning environment and optimum learning experiences for the learners, which are the core of learning. So the session will revolve on the following important concepts. Number one is the introduction or background of the study, and it will be followed by the theories and concepts. And of course, the research findings, discussions or conclusions, and recommendations. And finally, utilize TPACK framework in our teaching practice. Today, we live in a constantly shifting environment as we ride the wave of the digital age. To adapt to the new world and to find a way to overcome the future challenges that may emerge in the education sector, training citizens is necessary. As the spread of emerging infectious disease worldwide, United Nations Sustainable Development Goal is challenged mainly in education by several educational institutions providing access to inclusive, equitable, and quality education for all learners is the main goal of the United Nations in 2019. In the context of globalization, innovation, disruptive technologies, and emerging infectious disease, the role of the teacher is a contributory factor. Each community attaches primary importance to the quality of the teachers and the growing realization that teachers have a key role to play in assessing the quality of production of educational institutions has influenced national policies. While modern technology has its own significant role in promoting the educational system, teachers are still a key element in the teaching and learning process. But the major considerations that we need to take into consideration are what kind of teacher that the modern society needs, and the modern school in particular. Does the system of the teacher education really meet the needs of the school, the society, and the challenges of the modern world through their competence as facilitators in online learning modality? The globalization requires the process or the school to prepare learners to play future social roles, right? And in particular, for effective functioning and modern democratic society. So, as specified in the United Nations Sustainable Development Goal number 4 in 2019, by 2030, substantially increase the supply of qualified teachers, including through international cooperation for teacher training in developing countries, especially least developed countries and small developing states. So, what does it mean? This implies that educators are the key to achieving all the goals of the SDGs. And it needs immediate action, right? So, as the education equity gap is compounded by the lack and inadequate distribution of teachers who are professionally equipped, especially in deprived areas, teachers and educators should be encouraged and properly recruited and remunerated. They also need to be inspired, professionally eligible, and assisted within well resourced, effective, and efficiently regulated systems, as teachers are fundamental requirement for ensuring the quality education. Consequently, the Department of Education in 2017 issued this Rapid Order number 42 series of 2017 entitled National Adoption and Implementation of the Philippine Professional Standards for Teachers. So in line with the existing professional standards for teachers, based on the principle of a lifelong learning, the DepEd stressed the importance of professional standards in continuing professional growth and sustainable for teachers. So it focuses primarily on empowering teachers and recognizing the unmistakable evidence that effective teachers are critical to learner success. Therefore, improving quality teacher is the main or the primary concern for long-term and sustainable nation building. So the PPSD complements the reform for teachers' quality. So we have here the K to 12, the 21st century skills, which includes the communication. So we teach our students to um, convey ideas quickly and easily, right? And clearly. Okay. And we also teach our students to think outside the box, and that is being a critical thinker. And we also want our students to be creative, creative in thinking, right? And of course, the importance of collaboration. So the changes brought about by the various national and global structures, such as this K to 12, the ASEAN integration or the internationalization, the globalization, okay, and the changing skills of the learners in the 21st century necessitate the reforms of rethinking the National Competency Teacher Standards or NCBTS, the National Competency Based Teacher Standards, which is why PPST was created. So basically, its goals are to establish specific teacher standards across well-defined career stages, because there are four career stages of professional development from beginning to distinguished practice. So it engages as well teachers in a proactive effort to achieve competence and use a systematic measure to evaluate teacher performance. What else? Identify their needs and provide professional development support. And this PPST will serve as their framework as well for all of the teacher learning and development activities. This is to ensure that teachers are primed and equipped to effectively implement the K to 12 curriculum, or from kindergarten all the way to grade 12. So it can also be used to select and promote teachers. And all the performance evaluations for educators must be based on this set of standards in this PPST. In connection to this one, the education sector goes along their way in adjusting to the new modality in terms of students' learning, and various universities in Urdaneta City and Binalonan, Pangasinan, here in the Philippines, began to embrace pure online learning education in the academic year 2020 to 2021, which is basically the first implementation, the first year implementation of online learning modality in various universities or higher learning institutions. However, opportunities from the actual face-to-face classes still exist in online learning, and it could be personal or technical or school related, and most especially teacher related. So, along with the adjustments of the administration, different universities are also giving time to embrace the new normal. So, they are trying to come up with modalities, programs, and other strategies which would cope with the adversities in education and are moving into technology very rapidly. Just like in University of Eastern Pangasinan, they started to come up with a learning management system, a system that collects all the materials for learning, and then it gives access to all of the students to fully experience online. This was initially introduced to all the faculty members as a platform and their deliverables, and to monitor as well the academic progress of the learners. So, in this light, the study that I have conducted focuses primarily on the teacher education instructors' self efficacy in the utilization of technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge framework, or we call it TPACK framework, in the first year implementation of online education as an input to a training and development program. So, what is really the meaning of this TPACK framework? What is the purpose of this? What is the significance of this framework in the teaching practice of a teacher? So, this is to see the relationships and interactions among the technologies and how we utilize different strategies and methods, our pedagogical practices, and of course, our competence when it comes to the mastery of the content or the content mastery. Okay, the specific learning contents or objectives. Okay, so the implementation of this TPAC framework will help teachers in delivering the competencies and instructions, utilization of teaching pedagogy, and integration of digital tools to create an efficient learning environment. So it will also provide learners with optimum learning experiences during the pandemic era, where there are limitations when it comes to physical mobility. And going back to my question earlier, who will benefit this TPAC framework, this study? Okay, so first one is the curriculum experts. So the result of this study may help the Commission on Higher Education and of course the Department of Education in improving the existing curricula in different learning areas, not only in the teacher education academic programs, but also in basic education. So from kindergarten all the way uh, to grade 12, okay, with more emphasis of TPAC to strengthen the sense of self-efficacy of teacher education instructors. And who else aside from the curriculum experts? The school administrators would also benefit, wherein they provide this study would provide school administrators and heads with research-based knowledge. So the output of this study, okay, as their basis in strengthening the self-efficacy of teacher education instructors in online education. And who else aside from curriculum experts and school administrators? Of course, the teachers. Okay. So it will serve as their guide, okay, in their deliverables through teaching quality and effectiveness, and to provide learners with optimum learning experiences, okay, online through curriculum or their content mastery, their pedagogical skills and competence, as well as in incorporating technology based on the learning outcomes in the competencies and standards stipulated in the curriculum guide. Okay, and in a way that is relevant as well to the learner's developmental level, needs, and diversities. Okay, and then also the learners as well. which are the core of learning. So they may directly benefit from this TPAC framework, because the self-efficacy of teachers will help the learners develop their interest and participate actively in the learning session. So through the teachers' influence of self-efficacy, learners will promote development of basic skills, their understanding, even their work habits, their desirable traits, since we are not just only focusing on the cognitive skills and psychomotor skills of the learners, but also their values, right? Their attitude, okay? The decisions and adequate personal adjustment, so that when they practice their teaching profession, they are fully equipped with necessary competence that the modern world requires. Okay. And lastly, future researchers. So this study or output will personally benefit the researchers. Okay. They will fully understand the significance of teachers' self-efficacy in TPAC in the context of online education. So this study is reliable in future settings that will help future researchers to adopt similar studies focusing on relevant profile variables in a wider scope. So variables such as economic status, gender, and motivations. Okay? And we will now proceed to the next one. The next slide, okay? Juries. Right? We have the TPAC framework, okay, by Mishra and Cooler, and then the other one is self-efficacy by Bandura in 2001. So these are two important theories that are okay aligned in the focus of the study, since we are focusing on the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge of the learners, which I mean the teachers, which will serve as our basis of their self-efficacy, meaning their effectiveness. Okay. So, what is a TPAC framework and what do we mean by this self-efficacy? Okay, so this TPAC framework, again, the proponents of this are Mishra and Kohler in 2006. Okay, so what is TPAC framework? TPAC meaning letter T stands for technological, P for pedagogical, okay, and CK for content knowledge. So TPAC framework, technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. So allow me to explain each area. So basically there are three areas, right? So the first one is technological, and it will be followed by pedagogical, and then the last one is content knowledge. Okay, let's have first the content knowledge. So what do we mean by this content knowledge? Meaning content mastery of the teacher. So it refers to the knowledge of teachers in the subject matter or the content. So it's recognizing the importance of mastery, okay, of content knowledge and its interconnectedness within and across the curriculum areas, coupled with a sound and critical understanding of the application of theories and principles of teaching and learning. So for the teachers to be effective, they must have this substantive basis of curriculum or content knowledge. Okay, so this is content knowledge, meaning our mastery. Okay, when it comes to the content or the subject matter that we are teaching to our students, coupled of course with sound and critical understanding of the application of theories and principles. Okay. So aside from that, we also have pedagogical knowledge. Okay, pedagogy, meaning what? Okay, we have lesson designing, teaching methods or strategies, and then what else? Our classroom management, and then the last one is questioning skills. Okay, so this involves designing our learning deliverables, especially our learning plan or syllabi for the higher education institution, on how teachers prepare or design a learning plan with class-wide activities in congruence to the intended learning outcomes or competencies. What else? Their methods that suited to the needs and capabilities of the learners, and in selection as well of strategies that strengthen okay teaching practices for a lesson, and on how they manage their virtual classroom aided with rules and routines, and on how they engage learners through questioning skills or the art of questioning, like asking questions that stimulate discussion in different ways. Okay, open-ended questions or close-ended questions. So again, pedagogical knowledge is basically the teaching methods or techniques of a teacher, right? And then the last one, we have technological. Okay, technological. So technological meaning our basic knowledge on new emerging technology. So on how we incorporate technology, the digital tools in our virtual classroom. So among the aforementioned areas, the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, this area, the technological knowledge, is a complex discipline to master. Why? Because technology continues to evolve, right? So as we ride the wave of the digital era, it continues to evolve. Okay. And there are a lot of factors that we have to consider before utilizing them in the virtual classroom, right? So I'll explain it later after presenting the research output. So I will be discussing some tips, okay, recommendations on how you are going to utilize TPACK framework in your teaching practice. Okay, so I hope you understand the concept TPACK framework. And what about the self-efficacy? Okay, so as coined by Bandura in 2001, this is actually the teacher's confidence in their ability to design and carry out the steps necessary to accomplish specific teaching tasks in a particular context. So, moreover, teaching self-efficacy refers to the views of teachers in their teaching skills. And to contextualize, of course, in this study, okay, it is the existing sense of efficacy of teacher education instructors of various universities in Urdaneta City and Binalonan, Pangasinan, here in the Philippines, and on how they bring desirable changes to the learners, okay, learning development in online education. Okay, so that is self-efficacy, meaning the effectiveness of the teachers in utilizing the TPAC framework, the technological competence, okay, their pedagogical competence, and of course their content knowledge. Okay, and we will now proceed to the next one. Okay, so this one is actually the conceptual framework of the study. Okay, so as you can see on the framework, okay, the research part of them, okay, it is input, process, and output. So under input, okay, it includes the profile of the instructors, okay, and later on I will be showing you the profile of instructors quantified, okay, under this input. Okay, what else? The level of self-efficacy of the respondents in the utilization of TPAC in online education. And last one, the significant relationship between the profile variables of the respondents and their level of self-efficacy in the utilization of TPAC framework in online education. Under process, okay, the researcher utilized Google form in data collection, and of course, the statistical analysis, which will then be presented later on. And under the output, okay, for the output of the study, okay, the researcher proposed a training and development program for teacher education instructors focusing on the utilization of TPAC framework. Okay, so it's input, output, input, process, output framework. Okay, for you to have a, of course, a glimpse or just a summary of the study. Okay, and for the research methodology and for us, of course, to satisfy the objectives of the study, I utilize a quantitative descriptive correlation method. So to quantify and interpret the data, I utilize this quantitative research design, okay, using survey questionnaire through the use of Google Form. So Google Form is actually an online um, application. So it's a software application, okay, in gathering data and descriptive method of research in assessing, analyzing, and evaluating as well the teacher education instructors self-efficacy in the utilization of TPACK framework in online education. And meanwhile, I use correlational research since earlier, okay, in the under the input, I want to test the relationship between the teacher education instructors' level of self-efficacy in the utilization of TPACK framework and their profile variables. So the target respondents of this study were the teacher education instructors, okay, full-time instructors who are teaching Bachelor of Secondary Education and Bachelor of Elementary Education programs from different universities in Urdaneta City and Binalonan, Pangasinan here in the Philippines. With that, there are four universities, okay, situated in Urdaneta City and one university in Binalonan, Pangasinan. So out of the target respondents, there were 60 teacher education instructors who participated in the study. And of course, to ensure the validity and the reliability of the instrument, I sought for the help and assistance of the experts in terms of the content and pedagogy of the study. And of course, just like what I have said, I conducted or I underwent my um, instrument through a reliability test using this Cronbach's Alpha to measure the internal consistency and reliability of the instrument. Okay, dissemination of survey questionnaire was also administered online to all the teacher education instructors from different universities in the said uh, locations. Okay, so in Urdaneta City and Binalon, Pangasinan. And of course, to ensure the safety of the instruments, okay, ethical issues are very important, right? So the research ethics. So to ensure the safety of the participants, anonymity during the process of research, I facilitated informed consent to the respondents in the Google form by recognizing, of course, my responsibilities as researcher under the Republic Act 10173, or we commonly use the term Data Privacy Act of 2012. So with respect to the data collected and was exclusively used to achieve the objectives or the goals of the study. So this time, allow me to present the research problems, statistical tools, findings, discussions, conclusions, and recommendations of the study. So for the SOP number one, anyway, SOP number one is statement of the problem, or we use also the term research problems. Okay, so for research problem number one or SOP number one, what is the profile of the respondents in terms of A, gender, B, age. C, highest educational level achieved. Letter D, teaching experience. And the other one is relevant training attended. So, based from the results, most of the teacher education instructors were male. Their age range between 21 to 40 years old. Most of them are not full-fledged master's degree holders, but they have already earned units. Majority of them are advanced beginners in service and have attended national relevant training as teacher education instructors in the university. So as researcher, I recommend that teacher education instructors may further their studies by finishing their master's and doctorate degrees, then immerse themselves internationally by attending various relevant training, not only limited in a local context. This is, of course, to strengthen their professional skills and competence as teachers. And for SOP number two, or the statement of the problem number two, or research problem number two, what is the level of self-efficacy of the teacher education instructors in the utilization of TPACK framework in the context of online education? So again, there are three areas for technological. Okay, the second one is pedagogical, and then the last one is content knowledge. And of course, the statistical tool that I have utilized here is weighted mean for us to, of course, come up with a reliable result or findings. And based from the results, the level of instructors' self-efficacy on the utilization of content knowledge is highly effective, whereas effective in terms of technological and pedagogical competence. So as you can see, they are teachers from this group of participants or group of participants. They are highly effective in terms of technological. However, in terms of pedagogical and content knowledge, they are effective. Okay, so the teacher or the researcher suggests that they utilize the TPAC framework as their guide in delivering competencies and instructions, teaching pedagogy and integration of technology to create an efficient learning environment and optimum learning experiences for the learners, which are the core of learning, right? And for SOP number 3, is there a significant relationship between the level of self-efficacy on TPAC and their profile variables? So, as you can see on the illustration that I am currently presenting, there is no significant relationship, okay, between the level of instructors' self-efficacy in the utilization of TPAC and their profile variables in terms of their gender, their age, their highest educational level achieved, even their teaching experience and relevant training attended. So what does it mean? So it implies that their level of self-efficacy on TPAC has nothing to do with their profile variables. And as a recommendation, okay, the future researchers may adopt similar studies focusing on the relevant profile variables in a broader scope since I identified 5 profile variables. So I suggest that future researchers may also consider the economic status, the motivations as well of these teachers. And aside from teacher education instructors who rated themselves, future researchers may also consider other group of participants, which are teacher education, deans, and program heads, and of course the learners. This is to um, counter check, okay, to counter check the consistency of findings obtained through various groups of participants because it's just the self-efficacy, meaning the self-evaluation of the teacher. Okay, so to counter check the consistency of the findings, I suggest that future researchers may also include other group of participants, which are the deans or heads and even the learners, if they are really effective when it comes to their pedagogical, their content knowledge, and even their technological competence as teacher. And for the last one, SOP number 4, okay, this is actually the proposed program, a training and development program, okay, a proposal. So I crafted this training and development program, which will serve as the ground principle of future training design plans. Since the present study provided baseline data, then the program should be part of the faculty development program of different higher education institutions, which can occur before instructors ever begin teaching in the classroom and may continue until the end of teaching career to ensure that instructors have well structured technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge, and for them to have, of course, a high sense of teaching efficacy, right? So we already know the research output. So I have already presented my research output. Now, the question is, how do we successfully utilize TPAC framework in our teaching practice? So I will be sharing some strategic ways which you can adopt, okay, in your, of course, teaching and in aligning the learning competencies, the standards, the objectives stipulated in the curriculum guide, strategies, and of course, activities and the digital tools that we are actually utilizing in the classroom, especially in the context of online education. So look at the illustration very well. Okay. So as you can see on the picture, okay, it indicates there the learning competencies. Okay, so we have samples here. And what is the reason why I presented this one? Okay, because as I have said, I will be giving some strategic ways on how you are going to align the competencies, the strategies and activities, and of course the digital tools in your daily teaching. So number one is to check the curriculum guide. Of course, okay, what is our basis in our teaching? Okay, of course, we check the curriculum guide. So we check our curriculum guide, which will serve as our basis on what to teach, right? So it includes there the topic, okay, the content standards, the competencies, the intended learning outcomes that we have to achieve at the end of the learning session or at the end of the course, right? So we have to check first the curriculum guide. And after which, we have to identify the action verb used in the learning competencies. So uh, let's look at the picture. So where can you, I mean, what is the action verb used in this statement? In number one, let's say in number one, describe objectives based on the attributes, properties, which includes shapes, size, and its use and functions, right? Okay, can you please utilize the chat box to type your response? All right, so we have here the word describe, right? And in number two, we also have here the action verb use group. What else? In number three, we have the word match. Number four, we have sort and classify. So these are action verbs, right? So after checking the curriculum guide and identifying the action verb use in the learning competences, what is now the next step? Okay, so we have to utilize revised Bloom's taxonomy of Anderson and Krathwohl in 1956, and then the other one is the pedagogy wheel, okay, proposed by Carrington in 2016. So let me explain it further. So I mentioned earlier the Bloom's taxonomy. So why we need to use this Bloom's taxonomy? Because the goal of this, or the goal of the teacher, okay, why we use this Bloom's taxonomy is for us to encourage higher order thought in our students by building up from lower level cognitive skills. So it has a specific hierarchy of learning levels, right? And each level is a vital part of learning to achieve deeper, more advanced, and cognitive uh, skills and abilities, right? So it's more advanced, it's more deeper cognitive skills and abilities. So building up, okay, building upon each level in our learning plans will guide our students to think in increasingly more sophisticated ways. So look at this one. There are six learning levels, right? So we have the first level. In the lower level, we have the remembering, okay, understanding, and we also have applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So basically, it's a hierarchy. So this one is the lower order thinking skills, the remembering and understanding. And applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating are actually the higher order thinking skills. And in under each level, there are action verb, okay, used here, okay? So just like the word identify, this one falls under remembering, okay? Let's say compare, okay, this one falls under understanding or whatnot, right? So we have to check the action verb used in the learning competency or in our intended learning outcomes. And then from there, okay, we use the revised Bloom's taxonomy, okay, for us to identify the level, okay, the cognitive level, okay, the learning level, okay. And of course, it's a powerful tool to help develop learning outcomes because it explains the process of learning, right? In remembering, before we proceed to the next level, which is understand, okay. So basically, before you can understand a concept, you must remember it first, right? And before you apply a concept, you must first understand it. Okay? And in order to evaluate a process, you have to analyze it. And before creating an accurate conclusion, you must have completed true evaluation. That's why it's a hierarchy. It's a learning levels from the lower order thinking skills all the way to the higher order thinking skills. So again, the first step or the first tip that I can give you is you have to check the curriculum guide. Okay, you identify the action verb used in the learning competencies or in the intended learning outcomes, and then after which you utilize this revised Bloom's taxonomy, okay, for you to know what learning level is being utilized, okay, in a certain learning competency or ILO, okay, or intended learning outcome. Then after which you can now use the pedagogy wheel. Okay, pedagogy wheel. So look at this, look at the illustration. It's basically a wheel, right? So I will explain it. Okay. So anyway, I will be sharing the link later on of this pedagogy wheel because it's a bit, pixelated or vague in the screen. Okay. So now, allow me to of course explain this, the pedagogy wheel. What is really the purpose of this? The goal of this is to assist as educators in thinking about how we employ applications in teaching in a systematic, okay, cohesive, and long-term manner. So the core idea is that the educational use of applications should be determined by the pedagogy. So it's not just simply selecting technology in the virtual classroom. But we have to consider, of course, our pedagogical competence, okay? The strategies, the methods on how we integrate or incorporate this technology in the virtual classroom. And this device is helpful since it can be used by a teacher from anything, okay? From curriculum planning and development to altering the learning objectives and creating student-centered activities, since our main approach now in the 21st century is student-centered, right? It's student-centered approach, okay? And remember, okay, in this pedagogy wheel, you can see there, wait, right? Let's take this as an example. So look at this one, okay? You can see there the revised Bloom's taxonomy, right? The remember, what else? Evaluate, remember, okay? Understand, okay? Apply, analyze, evaluate, and create. And then from there, okay, you can see the action verbs used. Okay, of course, for us to align these learning competencies in the learning level based on the Bloom's taxonomy. And from there, well, that is already our content knowledge, right? Okay, identifying the curriculum guide, okay, the action verb use, okay, and then after which we can already select, okay, activities or strategies that are aligned to our learning competencies. Okay, and then from there, we also have here different digital tools that we can actually utilize in our classroom. So we are aligning, right? So we are aligning the learning competencies to the Bloom's taxonomy, um, and of course the activities and strategies, and to the technological tools that we use in our teaching, right? So it's basically our TPACK, our technological competence, our pedagogical competence, and of course our content knowledge. Okay, so in selection of technology or digital tools, we have to consider, number one is the learning competencies or the intended learning outcomes, right? So I already mentioned this. So we use the curriculum guide as our reference, okay? And we have to check as well, okay, the left side of this framework, the app selection criteria, okay, the app selection criteria, okay. So this is actually specified in the left side of the pedagogy wheel. So we have to we have the app selection guide that we keep in mind, okay. We select only applications that can support the learning objectives and activities at a time, okay. And then after which, um after using or aside from using app selection criteria, we also have to consider our students, right? So our students, not only the learning competencies, but also we have to consider our students, right? What does it mean? Their needs, okay, their interests, right? Their diversities, because learners have different learning styles, right? Some are good in dancing, some are good in singing, some cannot express themselves through um, verbally, but they can express themselves through written, right? So things like those, we have to consider their needs, their interests, and diversities as well. And apart from that, we have also to consider the excuse me, the availability or accessibility of the digital tools. Okay, is the application accessible or free, right? Or is it compatible with the students' devices, right? So things like those, we have to consider those things, right? So the learning competencies, the intent or the intended learning outcomes, the students, which includes their needs, their interests and diversities, and of course the availability and accessibility of these digital tools, right? Okay, so let me just sum up, okay, this one. So again, how do we successfully utilize TPACK framework in our teaching practice? So number one, we have to choose the learning objectives or outcomes. And then what else? Select an activity assessment type. And last one, you have to choose technology that supports the activity that allows students to learn. Okay, so these are the things that we have to consider in utilizing technology in the virtual classroom. And remember, teachers, it is not just only our content and technological knowledge, but it's really more on our pedagogy, on how we utilize this to create a meaningful learning. After all, quality of learning is more valuable than quantity of learning being acquired by the learners. And with this, I am challenging you to be a competent teacher aided with technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much for your wonderful presentation about effect framework for teacher self-efficiency. I hope most of our participants are teachers, so this topic is very efficient for them. Thank you, sir. So now we are going to our quiz competition, and after that we come back again with our Q&A session. Okay, sir? Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Dear participants, now we are going to our quiz competition. Today our quiz code is IGP. The code is IGP. Let's see, enjoy our quiz video. Dear participants, this is our quiz session time. You can join this session by slido.com, and today our quiz code is IGP. The code is IGP. To join this live quiz session, you have to go to slido.com, and after that you have to put the code, and the code is IGP. Then you can join this live quiz session. And today, top 10 quiz competition winners get their quiz certificate after this session. I request everyone to join with your full name, which will directly print on your quiz certificate. And don't forget to mention your friends in the comment box to join this session. Now 46 participants already joined with us. We start our quiz competition after 1 minute later. So join the hurry up. To join this live quiz session, you have to go to Chrome or any other browser. After that, you have to go to slido.com, and after that, you have to put the code. The code is IGP. Then you can join this session. You can also scan the QR code from the screen to join this session. Now 51 participants already joined. We start our quiz competition now. Our first question is, who created the framework for teaching? Is it Danielson or Piaget? Option number one, Danielson, is the right answer. Our next question is, how many domains are in the framework for teaching? Is it two or four? Option number two, four is the right answer. Our next question is, which of the following is not part of the ready for rigor framework? Is it awareness or differentiation? Option number two, differentiation, is the right answer. Next question is, in project-based learning, teacher offers dash source of knowledge for learners? Is it academic or external? Option number two, external, is the right answer. Our next question is, how are teachers currently evaluated? Is it classroom observation or sponsoring extracurricular activities? Option number one, classroom observation, is the right answer. Next question is, a teacher's efficiency grows most from with real success with students or moral support from colleagues. Option number one, with real success with students, is the right answer. Next question is, what are the required for good teaching? Is it diagnosis or remedy? Option number one, diagnosis, is the right answer. Next question is, cooperative learning is a good strategy for high achieving students only or students with learning disabilities? Option number two, students with learning disabilities, is the right answer. Next question is, new teachers often begin with a focus on how they are doing before how the students are doing. The statement is true or false? Option number one, the statement is true. Our last question is, having students set their own goals will increase their ownership for learning. The statement is true or false? The statement is true. Thank you, everyone. On the leaderboard, the top 10 quiz competition winners are: top 10 quiz competition are on the top position is Jacqueline Bisa, and the second one is Lady Anne Lomot, and the third one is Royce, and the fourth one is Alex Xavier Alvarez, and the fifth one is Ginalyn Borja, and the sixth one is Isle Erika, and the seventh one is Javi Apricio, and the eighth one is Myroy Basilo, the ninth one is Justin, and the last one is Ginalyn Villar. Thank you everyone and congratulations of our top 10 quiz competition winners. Top 10 quiz competition winners get their quiz certificate after this session from our official Facebook page. Now we are going to our Q&A session. After a short brief clips, we come back again. Hello, sir.
Hello, sir.
Welcome. Welcome back, sir.
Yes, sir.
Dear participants, this is our Q&A session time. You can send your question in the comment box. Sir, our first question is, good afternoon, sir. What is the importance of feedback in teaching and learning?
Okay, so thank you so much, Mr. Flomi Salvievo, for this question. So I actually explained this earlier, the significance of the study. So this is actually a valuable or significance to different existing body of knowledge. Number one is the curriculum experts. So this will serve as, of course, their guide in improving the existing curricula in different teacher education academic programs appropriate to the needs and development of the learners in online education with more emphasis on the utilization of TPACK to strengthen, of course, the sense of efficacy of teacher education instructors. And it will also benefit the school administrators because the study earlier that I have presented will serve as their research based knowledge in strengthening the self efficacy of the teacher education instructors in online education. And it will also directly benefit the teacher education instructors as their guide in their teaching deliverables through their quality and effectiveness to provide learners with optimum learning experiences through their curriculum and content mastery, their pedagogical skills and competence, as well as in incorporating technology based on the learning outcomes or competencies and standards, and in a way that it is relevant to learners' developmental level needs and adversities. And lastly, to the learners, which are the core of learning. So this will help them develop their interest and participate actively in the learning session. So through the teachers' influence of self-efficacy, learners will be more will promote development of basic skills, understanding their desirable traits, and even their decisions and adequate personal adjustments as well. And they are fully equipped with necessary competence with what the modern world requires now. That's it, sir.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, how do we develop higher order thinking skills?
Okay, thank you so much, sir, for the follow-up question. So we can develop the higher order thinking skills of our students by utilizing, of course, the um our pedagogical competence in designing our lesson. And then earlier, I already mentioned that you have first to consider the learning competencies stipulated in the curriculum guide. Okay, so the learning competencies, because that will serve as our basis on what to teach, right? And how to teach these concepts to our students. And so, in line with this, for us to successfully develop the higher order thinking skills of our learners, we have to provide a lot of challenging activities, various activities, okay, that falls under the four levels, okay, the four levels of, or the next four levels of the revised Bloom's taxonomy, which are the applying, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, sir. So it's more on our pedagogical competence, really, for us to, of course, develop these higher order thinking skills, and for us to promote as well these 21st century skills.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Our next question is, how is Mishra related to TPACK?
Actually, sir, TPACK framework was proposed by Mishra and Kohler. So they collaborate as one, okay, to craft this TPACK framework, sir, the technological, pedagogical, and content knowledge.
Okay. Sir, our next question is, can curriculum evaluation address the problem of misalignment of jobs among graduates?
Okay, so thank you, sir, for this question, Mr. Jarrell Gabrinao. So can curriculum evaluation address the problem of misalignment of jobs among graduates? So actually, in the background of the study earlier, I presented a lot of frameworks. Okay, just like the Philippine qualification frameworks, and then the United Nations, the national and then the international statutes or basis, right? So using this curriculum, we can assess the competence, the readiness of our, of course, students. Okay, kung in and what path or career path they this curriculum, okay, the competencies stipulated in this, in the curriculum guide will serve as our basis, of course, for us to develop the skills of these learners. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Sir, our next question is, what is the impact of teachers' self-efficiency on the students' learning outcome? And thank you.
Okay, so the impact of teacher self-efficacy on the students' learning outcomes is for them to be able to develop or promote this what we call the holistic development of the learners, the basic skills, their understanding, their work habits, even their desirable traits, sir. Ma'am, the decisions and then their adequate personal adjustment, so that when they already practice their profession, they are equipped with necessary competence that the modern world requires now.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is, how does the three areas of knowledge benefit from each other?
Okay, so earlier I already mentioned this one, that the core feature of the TPAC framework, okay, are has relationship and interaction among each other, because in our daily teaching we use these three areas, right? So in our teaching we use instructional materials, we use digital tools, and that is our technological knowledge, right? And in preparing our plans or learning plans, we utilize this our content knowledge, right, and how we relate these concepts stipulated in the curriculum guide, okay, within and across it, right, across the curriculum areas, and of course our pedagogical competence as well, okay, on how we teach these concepts, because um it's not we are not only focusing on the question what to teach, but also how to teach. And that is our pedagogical competence and how we utilize different or various techniques and strategies in teaching, right? Our questioning skills and even our classroom management in the virtual classroom.
Okay. Sir, our next question is, if one component in the TPACK framework is missing, does it still have the same effect in learning?
Mhm. Okay, so earlier in the presentation on the TPAC framework, since they are interrelated, if one component in the TPAC framework is missing, does it still give the same effect in learning? um, in my personal opinion, and of course based on my in-depth understanding of TPAC framework, they still I mean they are, I mean, interconnected. That's why if one is missing, you cannot say that you have a high sense of self-efficacy. Of course, in learning, okay, we cannot just simply deliver or inculcate competencies or knowledge to our skills, but also we are aided with pedagogical competence and technological competence and or whatnot.
Thank you. Thank you so much, sir. We have no more question. Thank you very much for wonderful presentation and wonderful your question and answer. Thank you, sir, for sharing your valuable knowledge with our participants.
My pleasure, sir. Thank you so much as well.
Thank you, sir. What is your last and final words for our participants?
Okay, so once again, thank you so much. I am ecstatic and overwhelmed by gratitude to be here to share my research output and, of course, my teaching practice and competence to my fellow educators and perhaps aspiring educators as well. So, my sincerest gratitude to the Institute of Global Professionals team for this opportunity. I am forever grateful. Let me also take this opportunity to thank my supportive Dean Dr. Raymond Claro for his undying support. So once again, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, sir, from our participants. Thank you. Dear participants, today our program name is TPACK Frameworks for Teacher Self-efficacy. And today our program and webinar code is the code is IGP 3453. The code is IGP 3453. Please note that code to download your certificate. The code is IGP 3453. Without code, no one is eligible for certificate. With code, you can claim your certificate anytime from our website. Our website address is edyzp.com. To download your e-certificate, you have to go to our website. After that, you have to enroll the program, and the program name is TPACK Framework for Teacher Self-efficacy. After that, you have to put the code. The code is IGP 3453. And finally, you can download your e-certificate. After downloading your e-certificate, don't forget to celebrate with IGP checking. Thank you, everyone. I hope you learn something new from this session. Thank you, everyone. Stay happy and stay safe.